Some years ago, I was invited to spend a semester as a visiting professor at the National Laboratory for High Energy Physics in Tsukuba, Japan. Carol and I packed up our two teenagers, David and Gail, and boarded a Pan Am non-stop jet for the 16-hour flight to Tokyo. Once we arrived, it was another 4-hour taxi trip to Tsukuba, which is about 40 miles north of Tokyo. The laboratory is very modern and is just like Brookhaven National Laboratory on Long Island. It was created around its particle accelerators, or atom smashers, which is the field that I specialize in. The laboratory is located in the valley near Mount Tsukuba. At the time we went, which is many years ago, they hadn't had many Western visitors, but to try and make them more comfortable, they installed 2 trailers for the European and American visitors to have more comfortable surroundings.
Here is our home away from home, and outside is our toy pet. Although it looked very shabby on the outside, the inside was quite comfortable. A typical Japanese breakfast is miso soup and fish, but we were able to get Rice Krispies, cornflakes, and milk. One day, this huge snake crawled across the floor, and I got the phone and called my husband to rescue me. A group of scientists came and got it out of the radiator where it had curled up. The next day, we had a major earthquake. The snakes had felt the vibration in the ground and surfaced. We had never seen snakes before, and we never saw any after.
While the toilet and tub in our trailer were in typical Western fashion, in the laboratory, the toilet was more in the Oriental style. This is the bathtub in a Japanese hotel or ryokan. You sit on that little stool outside the tub, soap up, then fill that red bucket with water and pour it over yourself. Then you get in the tub when you're totally clean.
I enjoyed biking in the local roads, past the rice fields, the beautiful Japanese houses, and peeking through the gates at their gardens. I came across a local cemetery. This is the nearby town of Hojo. Note how narrow the streets are, with the houses right up to the road. I went shopping with my friend Mrs. Shimaro at a local fish market. Later that day at her home, she taught me to make sushi.
David and Gail were enrolled in the Takazono Middle School. This was unusual enough that the two of them had an article written about them in one of the major Japanese Tokyo newspapers. The first day they went to school in their nicest USA clothes, but they very soon wanted to be in uniforms like the other kids. They attended Takazono Higashi Chugako. They went to school 5.5 days a week, 11 months of the year. On Saturdays, they would clean the school. David and Gail were welcomed at the school and made many friends. We lived very near to Mount Tsukuba, which is where one of the famous Buddhist temples is located. The area where we lived was very rural, and there were many minor shrines like this one. Some of them had beautiful paintings on their walls and ceilings. We arrived at the beginning of April, which is cherry blossom time, or sakura. There are many festivals here celebrating the occasion. Quite often they're held out under the blossoms of the cherry trees at Hojo and Oho around little lakes. The nearest city was Tsuchura. They had department stores and a McDonald's and a train station on the Joban commuter line to Tokyo. It took about 45 minutes to an hour to reach the city.
Tokyo is a beautiful city to be enjoyed in the daytime or in the evening. Here you see the moat around the Imperial Palace. The gardens in some of the palace areas are open to the public on Sundays. This is the famous Asakusa Temple, well known for its healing powers. Huge red lanterns grace the ceilings. Does something hurt? We'll just go over, get some of that smoke, and direct it to the area of the body that ails you. See the Buddha? Just rub his head or shoulder, and that might work too. Need more cures? Perhaps you'll find some in the souvenir stands that line the outside of the temple.
This shrine honors Meiji, who was the emperor at the time that Perry opened up Japan to the West. He's the one who set the country on the modern ways.
Here we are ready to board the Shinkansen, or bullet train, on our way to Kyoto. This train goes 135 miles an hour.
This is the outer wall of the Imperial Palace, one of the buildings at the old Imperial Palace.
There are 1,800 temples and shrines here. This one is the most famous, the Gold Pavilion.
This is the Nijo Palace, made famous by a book by James Clavell called Shogun. This was actually the palace that the shogun-to-be occupied while in Kyoto. About a half-day's drive north of Tokyo is Nikko, a shrine dedicated to Ieyasu Tokugawa, the shogun who unified Japan. We ended our stay with a visit to Mount Fuji and stayed at a Japanese ryokan.